Good day, good day. I hope you're all having a great afternoon and enjoying the English sun as it finally appears. On this Facebook Live and official Property Entrepreneur podcast, I'm going to share with you a blueprint that we teach on our Property Entrepreneur program. So we have 3 values on Property Entrepreneur. There's only 3 things we want all of our clients to achieve. And the first one is wealth. And there's a big difference between being wealthy and being rich. The second is health. There's no point being the richest man in the graveyard. And the third is man or woman in the graveyard. And the third is life by design. Whatever you want to be, the next empire builder, the next take over the country, industry, world, or you want to have a nice stay at home, family life, lifestyle business, whatever's important to you. We build a life based on that. I'm going to do a series of these, and in today's I'm going to talk to you about wealth creation and how the concept of being rich is very different to the concept of being wealthy. So being rich as a term on Property Entrepreneur, we refer to it as having all of the tangible successes that come with success in the eyes of society. So cars, houses, expensive clothes, jewellery, things like that. And we talk about wealth in a completely different sense. And wealth is long-term financial independence, it's assets, it's security, it's financial independence, it's freedom from the requirement of covering your overheads. Now, there's nothing right or wrong with either of these. In fact, I've lived both lives, and it all pretty much comes down to personal preference. But the most important thing is that you understand where you are in your journey. You build your financial, what we call a financial fortress, strategically, and that it delivers exactly what you want. So when I first got to a position where I was making good money, I started to attract all of the overheads that come with that sort of lifestyle. So I had fast cars, I had a Audi R8, I had a brand new Mercedes, I had multiple houses. I was spending lots of money every month on a lifestyle, and in order to keep up with that, I obviously had to earn money to service it. Now, having scratched that itch and enjoyed that, I realised that actually for me, my preference is probably more on the simple things in life, and I now live at the other end of the extreme, which is on as far polar opposite as you can get really in wealth creation, which is living on a narrowboat. So I live on a narrowboat. My overheads have gone from thousands and thousands of pounds a month to £750 a month. And for me, where I am in my journey, that is my life by design. Wherever you are on that journey, there's a very clear blueprint to wealth creation. I'm going to take you through the 3 steps to creating genuine wealth, genuine asset-backed, long-term, generational wealth that can give you financial independence and a level of freedom that you may or may not experience living a rich lifestyle. So the 3 phases you have to go through, and all people have to go through this, whether you're working for it, you're building a business for it, or you're investing for it. There's 3 phases to genuine wealth creation. Now, the first is cash flow, the second is profit, and the third is assets. I'm going to take you through how this works. So the first is cash flow. And what this means is you need to spend your time, effort and energy creating a cash flow stream of income which enables you to service your monthly overheads on a monthly basis. So you've got enough money coming in every month, repeat money, predictable money, consistent money, like a salary, to cover your overheads. And that's the first port of call. So if you were building a business, it would be a subscription-based business, or it would be a repeat customer business. If you're investing in property, it would be service accommodation or HMOs, or a portfolio management company, something that generates cash flow that comes in every single month. And you work really, really hard at that until you get to a point where you've built a team and you've got systems, or you've delegated the workload, and the money that's coming in every month from your interests covers your outgoings. But there also has to be time left. So either you've built the business to enough that it pays you a salary and you don't have to work 100 hours a week to achieve it, or you've reduced your outgoings to a level where you can work less and the money coming in every month covers your costs, and you actually buy back some of your time. So that's the first step, is all you want to focus on is cash flow. How do you build a business or a portfolio that covers your overheads, covers your team's costs, pays your mortgage every month? And that's what we call your salary. So you build a business just to do cash flow. That's the first port of call. You can't skip the gears on this. You can't go straight into development and flips and buying and selling companies, because that would just be full of huge anxiety if you're trying to pay the mortgage every month based on what we'd call profit strategies, which is step 2. So step 1 is to get your cash flow nailed. Reduce your overheads or increase your business revenues and surplus so it covers your costs. When you've got that freedom, you've then bought yourself time freedom. And the mistake some people make is that they will then carry on doing more and more cash flow because they think they want to get rich, and they want to go from having 100 grand a year income or 50 grand a year income up to £500,000 income. So they work harder and harder and harder, build more and more cash flow strategies, and cash flow strategies are traditionally noisy. They've got employees, they've got tenants, they've got voids, they've got overheads, they've got costs. They're necessary evil. We all need them. It's the step 1 of wealth creation, but we don't need to keep going like that. Nobody ever created, well, that's a bit of a flippant point, but there's easier ways to create wealth than building cash flow businesses. Cash flow businesses are a means to an end, that is all, because they're noisy. So you do that until you get to a point where all of your overheads are paid, all of your team is paid, all of your monthly costs are paid, and you've now bought back your time. What we do with that time is we then start to move to the second level of wealth creation. And the second level of wealth creation is profit. So you've got your cash flow covered, you're covering your income on a monthly basis from noisy businesses, and then cover your income from the noisy businesses, and then we use that extra time that we've bought back to do profit strategies. Now, profit doesn't come in every month, it doesn't come in every quarter, it might not even come in every year, but when it comes in, it's a large chunk of capital. It's what we call large capital events. In order to create genuine wealth, you need to move above the salary bracket, and you need to move into wealth creation, where you start to create genuine lumps of capital in your life. So have a number of large capital events. And what this does is, if you think about cash flow as your salary, then profit is your end of year bonus. It's liquid capital that's left in the bank at the end of the year that you don't pay your mortgage with, you don't put food in the fridge in with. You may wish to spend it on not fringe benefits, but like cars, holidays, things like that. Or if you want to move up the wealth hierarchy and start to build your wealth, then you would actually move into investing it. So once you've got the cash flow, got the salary paid, we then move to step 2, which is large capital events. And this would be things like flipping property, or buying and selling companies, or doing developments. Anything that takes a longer amount of time, but you can have time because your salary is being paid by the cash flow business, and you create large capital events, whether that's 20,000, 50,000, 500,000 pounds. They're large capital events that start to actually increase your net wealth. Cash flow is salary, profit is end of year bonus. Cash flow is profit and loss, profit is balance sheet. And we start to really increase that net wealth position using lumps of capital, which would take forever to create if you were relying on cash flow strategies. And then once you've got those large lumps of capital in level 2, in phase 2, we then use those lumps of capital to invest into assets, which is stage 3. And assets are boring assets. They're long-term investments. They're low noise, low risk, low yield, low return. And what these do is these provide you long-term secure income, but it's significantly lower. If you were to build a cash flow portfolio on assets, single lets, dividend paying stocks, anything that delivers a single digit return in most cases, but it's predictable, it's secure, it's guaranteed, it's not noisy, that's what we move to in step 3, and that would take forever as a cash flow strategy. So we do it as an asset strategy. And what you do here is you buy long-term investments, this is where you start to create what we call your financial fortress, which is a portfolio of assets that have low risk, low yield, low return, but they're 100% predictable, 100% secure, and that is what we call your pension pot. So you've got your cash flow, which is your salary. We then move into profit, which is end of year bonuses, lumps of cash, and then we move that capital into the asset category, which is phase 3, building the financial fortress. The aim of the game then is to rinse and repeat that strategy with levels 2 and 3 until you get to a point. So basically, do profit strategies, have large capital events, 50,000, 100,000, 500,000, large capital events, and then move that capital into really boring low risk assets until, and this can take years, until you get to a point where your assets replace your cash flow. So you've built up enough boring assets with low risk, low return, you've played the long game, and actually now that becomes your primary income rather than the noisy cash flow portfolios, businesses that we used to get our head above water in the first phase. So they're the 3 levels and the 3 stages of genuine wealth creation. Now you can't skip the gears. It takes years, not months, to move through it. And having lived both the rich and the wealthy lifestyles, I would say that this one is my personal preference, and this is the strategy that we encourage all of the property entrepreneurs to execute as part of their strategy every year. To give you an idea of how this would play out in practice, so how it played out for me, is in phase 1, if we use property specifically, in phase 1 I invested in portfolios of HMOs, built a reasonable sized portfolio of HMOs and got the cash flow up there to a level where it paid for a team to run it, it paid for the office overheads, it paid for the cars, it paid for my salary. And what that did was it got the business running independently, had all the resources of a company, including my salary, and that took probably a year and a half, 2 years, but it was done. I mean, that was very aggressive. We did 18 HMOs in the first year, so that was very aggressive, but that was phase 1. Once that was established, we then started to move on to profit strategies, which were deal sourcing. So we started to package up HMOs and developments, which we've been doing for a long time through investors. Our minimum fee for HMOs is 15,000. Our minimum fee for developments is 40,000. We started doing deal packaging and started doing flips and started doing developments and started selling companies. And what that did was it created a number of large capital events where chunks of initially 10, 20, 30,000, more recently up to hundreds of thousands in large capital events where you've got money in the bank, your balance sheet's increasing, you've got funds that you can invest. And then in more recent years, moving into the asset strategy, 2.5 years ago, I started to invest in single lets. Single let market's been pretty hot for the last few years, so what I did was actually built a portfolio of actually just developed some blocks of flats and took that profit, so the cash flow is paying my salary, took that profit that had been created and started to build and develop blocks of flats for the long-term hold. And this is where my financial fortress was created. So blocks of flats leased out, so buy a building, develop it into a block of flats, and then lease it out to, leased it out to a service accommodation company. So it's a lower yield, but it's lower risk, it's guaranteed, it's secure, I don't have any voids, tenants, maintenance, it just runs in the background. Another one, a block of 18 hostel units with a licence for 25 people. That's leased out to a third party charity and care provider, housing association. Just finishing one at the minute, which is 20 apartments. That's going to be leased on a 5-year lease to a interim halfway house centre, and that'll be a 5-year lease, guaranteed FRI lease, guaranteed income. And you can see that these assets at the top provide not only long-term equity and security, but they generate the cash flow that's required to then replace the bottom level. You wouldn't really want to retire on a portfolio of HMOs. HMOs are noisy, they have voids, there's risks associated with both the management and the market. They're great for cash flow strategies. Service accommodation is great for cash flow strategies, but as you move up the wealth hierarchy, you can start to allow other people to make that margin with the housing associations, rent-to-rent operators who perhaps lease some of our HMOs, and they can take the margin, the cash flow margin, and we'll just take the asset margin. We'll have a lower return in exchange for lower risk and play the long game. That is the strategy for wealth creation, is to start off with cash flow, get your business going, build a cash flow business that pays your salary and all your overheads, Second, as soon as you've got the time to be able to breathe, is buy back some of your time, put systems and people in place, and then have a few large capital events in your life. This is where wealth is really created. Flipping property, flipping companies, doing development, build to sell developments, deal packaging, get those lumps of cash coming in the bank every year that you can then invest, and then invest them into assets. Boring, low yield, low return, highly predictable assets that you can sit back and enjoy the cash flow off, having done the hard work for the last 3, 5, 10, 20 years in order to get you there. And then if you do that and simultaneously reduce your overheads, that creates real relative wealth, where the difference between the money you make and the money you spend is significant, and on an annual basis your net wealth just keeps compounding, and it's a really great position to be. Success and failure are very predictable. Everything has a blueprint. Every blueprint we teach is on Property Entrepreneur. If you're not already in the Property Entrepreneurs community group, go on to the Property Entrepreneurs community on Facebook. There's 6,000 of us in there now. We post content in there often. If you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, Property Entrepreneur _, YouTube channel, Property Entrepreneur. And then if you've not yet attended one of our events, we have our annual events coming up, starting at the beginning of July, end of June, beginning of July. We do 4 a year. It's 3 days, and we'll share with you the blueprint start to finish on how to actually go out, use the blueprint, build a portfolio of businesses or properties, and then actually achieve your wealth, your health, and your long-term life by design, whatever that looks like for you. Go to www.bouncebackboom.co.uk or go to property-entrepreneur.co.uk. You can find out all the information. Otherwise, go through it step by step, cash flow, then focus on profit, then focus on asset, and I wish you all the best as you build your own financial fortress in the months and years ahead. All the best. I'll catch you again soon on the next Facebook Live and Property Entrepreneur podcast. Take care.